Hello, and welcome to Law Talk. My name is John Celebrezze, and I'm the co-founder of the Celebrezze-Zangi Community Legal Education Project, as we call it, CZ-CLEP for short. Our organization provides continuing education about the judiciary and legislature to attorneys, judges, government officials, and the general public. As a career educator, I recognize early on how important legal matters are and how they impact our lives. I am the nephew of the late Anthony J. Celebrezze, who was the popular 5-term mayor of Cleveland and a member of President Kennedy's cabinets. As a tribute to his lifetime commitment to the legal process, we dedicate this show.
Jocelyn Stefancin graduated from Washington and Jefferson College in 1987 with degrees in psychology and political science. Jocelyn attended Case Western Reserve Law School in Cleveland, Ohio, and received her Juris Doctorate in May of 1990. Jocelyn was admitted to the practice of law in November of 1990. Jocelyn began her career in Cleveland, Ohio with a small general practice firm. In 1992, Jocelyn accepted a position in the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. She remained with the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office through 2007. In 2008, she joined the Office of Morrow County Prosecuting Attorney and continued working with the office until February of 2013.
Jocelyn.
Yes.
Welcome to Law Talk.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we're glad to have you. We know you have a comparatively new job. You've been doing it how long?
Just a little over 1 year.
1 year. 1 year. Okay. But the office that you oversee, that's pretty new too, right?
Actually, it is, yes. We are just celebrating our 10th year this year.
Okay. Oh, 10 years already. Wow. Okay. Well, you know, as you can see, I got my trusty clipboard with me. I know that my viewers have questions about almost all aspects of the legal community, and I like to write a few questions down when I have the opportunity to have guests like yourself on the show, so all of us, can have a little better idea what goes on in various offices, yours being the Medina County Public Defender's Office. So would you mind answering a few questions for me?
Not at all.
Okay, well, here goes. Right at the top of the list, number 1. Please describe for our viewers the purpose of the Medina County Public Defender's Office. Well, that's a good place to start, huh?
I think so,
Okay.
yes. Let's start at the beginning. The office was created for the purpose of providing legal counsel to individuals who are indigent, people who can't afford to hire their own attorney.
Okay.
And that happened as a result of case law, actually. Some time ago, the case of Gideon versus Wainwright.
50th anniversary this year.
Yes. It told us that individuals who couldn't afford counsel still had the right to have counsel appointed for them, because when you are in jeopardy of losing your liberty,
Right.
going to jail, going to prison, then you have the right to be assisted by an attorney. So the office is created for that purpose, to provide that legal counsel to individuals accused of a crime that carries the potential for jail or prison, and people who could not otherwise afford one.
I see. Okay. So it is an appropriate time then. Gideon's Trumpet, the movie and the book, all about people's right to have an attorney.
Yes.
Okay. And I think you've already answered this question, but my subsequent question was how long you've been in business. You say it's 10 years now.
It's 10 years now, yes. The county commissioners actually drafted a resolution in December of 2003 to create the office in January of 2004.
Okay. So I'm losing a little track of personalities have come and go, but you are our second?
I'm actually your third.
Third public defender for Medina County.
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right, let's go. I hear tell it's a pretty busy place, huh?
It is a very busy place, yes.
Well, maybe I should ask you, let's just say for Medina, the city of Medina, in the course of a year, how many clients would you anticipate you'd represent?
In the Medina Municipal Court, we represent probably over 1,200 clients per year. I think it was closer to 1,600 for 2013.
Wow. Well, Muni courts, and I've had Judge Chase on the show as well as Judge McIlvain, are notoriously pretty busy places. I mean,
Yes.
a lot of cases come and go, but nonetheless, that keeps you all going this keeps you pretty busy. So how many attorneys do you have working in your office?
There are a total of 5 attorneys, myself and then 4 staff attorneys or assistant public defenders. We have 2 attorneys assigned to the Medina Municipal Court. We have 1 attorney assigned to the Wadsworth Municipal Court and 1 attorney assigned to the Juvenile Court.
Okay.
I then manage the office, oversee all staff attorneys, and then also take up cases and help out where needed.
So juvenile court, that's why a few minutes ago, and our viewers couldn't see this, you smiled and said hello to Judge Dunn because you see him there on a regular basis?
Yes.
Or a member of your staff does. Okay, well, we've got juveniles, we've got municipal court cases, which are not felons, but
Correct.
misdemeanor cases of all sorts of variety. All right, okay. But you don't do anything in common pleas court?
Not at this time.
Okay, so common pleas court, if one is indigent, we'll talk about what that means here in a few minutes, how does that person get representation if they don't use the public defender's office?
They would appoint private counsel. There are a number of counties actually in the state of Ohio that don't have a public defender's office. And when there is no public defender's office either in the county or in a particular court system, the judges make the determination of indigency for purposes of appointing counsel. And then they have a list of private attorneys who are experienced in criminal defense work, and then they appoint somebody from that list to represent that individual.
I see. So in our county, well, there are 2 general division common pleas judge, Judge Kimbler and Judge Collier. So, and those would be for criminal matters.
Yes.
So, if I'm understanding you and your office don't go to those courts, but the judges will actually pick from a list of attorneys like myself who practice locally, and
That's correct.
And that's how that works. But in the other courts, the judges really don't have any say in the selection, like in your municipal court?
Well, they have say in whether or not somebody gets appointed counsel if there's a conflict in the public defender's
well, that would
office.
make sense.
For example, if you have 3 individuals all charged as co-complicitors in a crime, my office can't represent all 3 of them. It would be a conflict of interest. So we would represent one of the 3, and the other 2 co-defendants would have appointed counsel by Judge Chase.
I see. What about over in domestic, which is a division of common pleas, and probate, which is another hat that Judge Dunn wears? Does your organization, does your office play any role in those 2 courts?
No.
So it's probably the same thing. Folks that need an attorney there, the judges would appoint.
If there is a need for appointed counsel based on loss of liberty or loss of some other significant right.
So when we start getting into stuff like probate and domestic, we're not talking about loss of liberty. Nobody's going to jail.
Exactly.
Okay, all right. So
unless
it's gonna
there's a
be,
contempt action.
Okay, it's going to be pretty much where you're at then, the muni courts, which are the busiest places, and people in great volumes could lose their liberty there. They can go to jail.
Yes.
Juveniles could go to jail.
Yes.
Okay. And of course, over in the probate courts, there's a real good possibility somebody's going to go to jail and for a felony offense, and that would be appointed counsel.
Yes.
Okay. So all of these folks that we're talking about, Jocelyn, are your clients. You've referred to them as being indigent. Okay. Just in layperson's terms, so my viewers, everybody can understand. What's that mean? If you're indigent, what does that mean?
It means you are someone who falls at or below the poverty guidelines. And those poverty guidelines are set by national standards, and then the State Public Defender's Office creates a guideline chart for my staff.
I see.
And for the judges as well, because when the judges, for instance, Judge Kimbler or Judge Collier need to appoint counsel, they use those same guidelines to determine who is eligible for appointed counsel and who is not.
Okay. So basically, when somebody is determined to be indigent, it simply means you don't make enough money, at least in the eyes of the state. There's laws that have established those cutoffs, the poverty level.
Yes.
Okay, which I guess this is not the only place where we see that. Everybody's not fortunate enough to make a lot of money. I used to be a school administrator in my other life, and we had a reduced lunch fee for kids' parents that didn't have a lot of money.
Right.
Kind of a similar idea, right?
Exactly.
Okay, all right, okay. You mentioned the Public Defender's Office. Is there yours is Medina. I mean, but is there like a state of Ohio Public Defender's Office?
There is. There's the state public defender, and Tim Young is the current state
Okay.
public defender. His office sets up guidelines and protocols that assist other county offices in following certain procedures, such as the eligibility guidelines.
Okay. All right.
And we file monthly reports to the state public defender's office as well.
Okay. What did, just kind of bird walking just for a minute here. 10 years ago, I mean, did somebody just wake up one morning and said it's time for us to have a public defender? I mean, how did this whole thing get started? I mean,
Well, there are a number of statutes and administrative code sections that allow the county commissioners to decide to create a public defender's office. And one of the reasons that typically those offices are created is an economic reason. The office itself can operate and function and provide legal services to members of this county who need it for far less cost than only using appointed counsel.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Oh my gosh, 10 years you've been, well, where is your office physically located?
The office is located in the professional building in Medina. It's at 120 West Washington Street. We're on the second floor, Suite
see.
2D.
Okay, well, that's good for my viewers to know that. You're right in the middle of town. Okay, okay, great definition. Now we all know what indigent means. I guess I'm going to pick up on that again, Jocelyn. Do the legal services provided to indigent clients differ in any way from those provided to anybody else paying clients?
Absolutely not. Every lawyer in the state operates under the same code of professional responsibility or professional conduct. And that means that we have the same obligations to our clients who are indigent as a privately retained attorney has to his or her client.
The services are exactly the same.
They're exactly the same, and they're being provided by people with the same degree, the same education. Everyone completes law school, everyone passes a bar exam, and everyone is required to maintain their license by completing 24 hours of continuing legal education every 2 years. So we meet the same criteria as private counsel, and most of us have at some point had a private practice.
I see. But you and you say you have 4 attorneys working in?
Yes.
So all 5 of you go after this full time, though.
We do, full-time employment.
Yeah, of course. I imagine if you're talking 1,600 cases for Medina alone, that is plenty of work for everybody. That's for sure.
It is.
I imagine this would vary a little bit on the economic times. I mean, 2008 we had a pretty serious slowdown. A lot of folks lost their houses. We did several shows on foreclosures, as a matter of fact, during those years.
Mm-hmm.
Times get a little better. People could afford a lawyer, but I guess your business is somewhat driven by the economy.
To some degree, yes, it is. And as you mentioned, we've had an increase in services that we provide, partly because of people losing jobs, not having the same financial resources that they once had available to them. And I think there's also a misconception about who really benefits from the public defender's office. It's not just the extreme poor or the poverty individuals. Sometimes you have an individual who works, but their expenses exceed their income. That adjusted gross income could actually qualify somebody.
I see.
And they don't have to sell a home, they don't have to sell their car in order to retain private counsel.
Sure.
So we do that based not only on income, but based on liquid assets that an individual has.
Just like bankruptcy. I mean, you have to take a lot of things into consideration. Well, everybody needs a lawyer, as we go back to Gideon. There was I thought, a rather interesting article about you written in Cleveland.com. This is in a recent article. It's probably been within the last year. You described your vision for the Medina County Public Defender's Office. Talk about that a little bit. I mean, when you were somebody, I mean, I'm sure your predecessors did a fine job, but like any of us who take over a new job, you do have a vision. I'm sure you were interviewed by a lot of people. You shared that with them. What is it? What is your vision for
You
it?
know, my vision is to make the Medina County Public Defender's Office a reputable, well-known office that individuals want to come to work to. You know, every county, every state that has a public defender's office strives to be an office that provides competent legal advice and services to the individuals, that has really qualified, capable trial lawyers. And I think sometimes we don't promote ourselves enough in certain areas. And people sometimes look down on public defenders. One of the things that attracted me to this position is that it was an office that was going to be in transition. And so it would give me an opportunity to get settled in, to understand the lay of the land, so to speak, to devise some new office policies and procedures, to start getting involved in community resources, making people aware, which is one of the reasons I was so glad to receive an invitation from you. And just to sort of get my office and my lawyers out in the public a little more.
Well, you know, you said something here about, and I think it's unfortunate, but it's a prejudice maybe that people hold that, well, if the public defender must not be a very good lawyer. But I mean, I've done a lot of these shows, and I'm a lawyer myself, and I think one of the deficiencies, if you will, of our profession is the lack of trained, skilled trial lawyers, people who actually go into the courtroom and do the stuff that people see on Law and Order and Matlock and stuff like that.
Yes.
Probably two places that I could think of that the best trial lawyers I've ever seen come from are, one, prosecutors, and two, public defenders.
Correct.
So for those of you, those who work for you as well as yourself, I guess you are probably in the greatest training ground you can possibly be, because you are like the guy in the Field of Dreams looking down that baseline every day, right?
That's correct. And a lot of young lawyers do use a public defender or a prosecutor's office for training purposes. They gain experience in trial work, evidence rules, things of that nature, and then they might leave after a while and pursue their own career. And then there are a few of us hard timers, so to speak. We're lifers.
That's all right.
And we enjoy the criminal justice system so much that we spend our whole career in the criminal justice area, either as a prosecutor, as a public defender, sometimes switching between the two fields.
Yeah, actually, you've done both. We're going to get that in a minute. Well, okay. So, you're in there, you're in the court all the time. You're facing juries,
day.
You're facing, every day. Okay, where some of us don't see it that often. Some people never see it. Okay. Probably a plug here for anybody who has it in your head, well, gee, a public defender, and you are even were looking for counsel later on, private counsel, and the person had public defender or prosecutor on their resume, you probably should rest assured there's somebody who spent some time in a courtroom.
Yes, most definitely.
Okay, well, glad to pass that along. Sometimes people overlook that. Okay, in the absence of public defender's office, how can indigent clients get representation? We talked about that. The judges in common pleas would appoint, and well, and the other one is not that great of a question, but I guess I'll ask it to you anyway. Is there an advantage to the public defender over appointed counsel? I mean, you're both forms of appointed counsel, but do you have more resources in the public defender's office than maybe an independent lawyer who was picked by Judge Kimbler to represent a defendant?
We actually have connections through the state public defender's office that could provide additional resources to us. For example, if I needed some investigators, I might be able to reach out to the state public defender's office, who would send somebody up from Columbus for me to do some background investigation on a case. And I think there's a misconception about that because the state office does provide those types of resources to us. They often help us on appellate issues as well. And I think people expect that if you don't have somebody in the office in-house, then you're not providing that service. But there are ways for us to accommodate that.
Actually, when you think about it, I mean, somebody who works in a law firm like I do, that we basically take most anything comes through the door. I mean, we do domestic, we do business, we do criminal. We do the best we can for all of our clients all the time. But that, I mean, a resource like an investigator, we use them all the time, but we pay them. We have to pay them. I mean, that
Right.
is passed right on to our client.
Correct.
Which, by the way, is pretty expensive.
It can be very expensive.
Depending on, yeah. Okay, so actually there's an advantage then.
That is one advantage. And then being in criminal court, only criminal court, my lawyers tend to know the law fairly well.
I bet they do. I'll bet they do. Okay, Swift, very interesting. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about your background, personally, your formal education, your past employment?
Certainly. I actually received my undergraduate degree in psychology and political science from Washington and Jefferson College.
Where's that at?
That's in Washington, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Just outside of Pittsburgh.
All right.
And after college, I applied for, of course, law school and was accepted at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland.
Right here in Cleveland.
So I enjoyed all of my experience at Case. I thought it gave me the opportunity to learn from some very skilled college professors, some who write handbooks for the judges, and my office uses those same handbooks. You know, Paul Gianelli on juvenile law and on evidence, Lou Katz, who writes the search and seizure update.
Right.
I had him
Sure.
as a law professor in college. Professor McElhaney, who was infamous for writing the trial notebook for tips on how to get into the courtroom, prepare for trial, get yourself ready for cross-examinations, theory development, things of that nature. So these were all professors that taught at Case, and I was very lucky to have them.
So you graduated, I believe you took the bar in about 1990, is that sound right?
That's correct. I graduated in May of 1990, took the July bar, and was sworn in as an attorney for the state in November of 1990.
But of course that was for the state of Ohio, but are you an Ohioan, or the fact that you went to school in Pennsylvania, or?
I'm a hybrid. I was born in Cleveland, Ohio. My family relocated back to their hometown in Uniontown, Pennsylvania.
I see.
And then I came back to Cleveland to go to law school, and I've been here ever since.
All right, okay. Well, I thought that was kind of interesting. You know, you went to Pennsylvania, you came back. Okay, well. All right, so then what'd you do?
After law school, I actually worked in Cleveland for a while with a small firm. Then I took a position in 1992 with the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office.
Oh, our neighbors, yeah.
Yes, and I started out in the municipal court there, received wonderful training experience from a couple of trial judges there, Judge Evans and Judge Miller. In 1996, I began handling felony cases and did felony prosecution for Wayne County through 2007. In 2008, I took a position in Morrow County as a prosecutor's office. I know. And I spent a number of years in Morrow County handling a felony docket.
I see.
Until the position in Medina County became available.
All right, so the perfect segue. What inspired you to become a public defender after you appear to be obviously a very successful prosecutor for quite a few years?
Well, I was a prosecutor for 20-some years.
Yeah.
Yeah, long time. I looked at it as a new challenge. You know, when you do the same thing, you're always afraid that you're going to become stagnant. And I didn't want that to happen as a trial lawyer. So I thought, here's an opportunity to manage an office, to give it some new direction, and at the same time to sort of reignite my experience as a trial lawyer by looking at it from the opposite side.
Well, see, that's a biggie, I think, because, well, I mean, we've all heard stories of the young accountant graduates from whatever, business school, and goes to work for the IRS, so he or she learns the tax code, and then switches and starts to work in the private sector, and probably makes a lot more money. But either one of these, and we respect what you're doing, but either one of them are really high-paying jobs.
No.
But you have taken on a totally different perspective. You prosecuted. Your purpose in life was to prosecute people, win as a prosecutor, somebody goes to jail. Now you do just the opposite.
Actually, they both have justice aspects to them. And I think people tend to view it in the manner in which you just phrased your question.
Okay.
As a prosecutor, your role is to seek justice.
Right.
As a defense attorney,
Your role is to seek justice.
my role is to seek justice.
That's a great
It's the
answer.
same role.
That is a great answer. I honestly never thought about it that way. Well, you certainly have a perspective on this that a lot of people probably don't, because you walked in the moccasins on both sides. So,
And I think my experience as a prosecutor really has its advantages when I
Yeah.
evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of the case
Sure.
filed against my client.
well, I got more questions, but I see the clock is running out, Jocelyn. But I'm going to take this opportunity before it does to give you an open invitation to come back to Law Talk anytime you want. I guarantee
Thank
I'll
you.
have more questions for you.
I'll be happy to answer them.
And maybe as you get more acquainted in the community and moving towards your vision on what you want to do with your office, if you would, and I'm sure you do on a regular basis, bring new ideas that you'd like to share with the community, by all means, call me. And, we'll get you on the show so we can talk about that sort of thing. So
I'd appreciate
we've laid
that.
the foundation today of what the office does, but I'm sure from talking to you, it'll be going higher and wider all the time. So
I hope so.
I'm quite certain that's going to be the case. So once again, thank you for being my guest on Law Talk, and please know that you have an open invitation to come back here anytime you want.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
Comments made by John's guest on Law Talk are solely those of his guest and do not necessarily reflect the views of Celebrezze Zangi Community Legal Education Project. To view this show and others, go to www.czclep.org. In the Wandsworth area, a complete listing of dates and times of this broadcast, tune in to WCTV Channel 15 or log on to wandsworthcity.com and follow the links to WCTV. At CZClep, we're devoted to the education of today's legal issues. Fueled by the public's keen interest in our legal system and current events, CZClep is dedicated to the educational venues aimed at enhancing the understanding by all citizens, regardless of age, education, occupation, or wealth. A function of the Celebrezze Zangi Community Legal Education Project.